So you're mid-sentence telling your mom, your dad, your partner something that matters, and they're nodding. But it's the wrong nod, the distracted kind. And you feel that familiar ache. Are we losing each other here? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might be the most important thing you hear from your loved one's brain this year. We write these moments off as aging, but the research tells us a different story. And I see it play out in my neurology clinic pretty much every single week. Untreated hearing loss can raise dementia risk by up to 71% over 15 years. 71%. And yet, it remains one of the most overlooked risk factors in brain health conversations. The good news: recent studies, including the 2025 research from Johns Hopkins, shows that hearing aids are linked to 32 to 61% lower dementia rates and up to 48% slower cognitive decline in people already at risk. This is modifiable. This truly matters, and you deserve to know it. I always like to start with a story, made-up story. So let's picture a Tuesday evening, nothing dramatic, just dinner, just family. You're telling your mom something from your day, something small, maybe even funny. The kitchen is warm, TV's humming, she smiles and nods. And then 40 seconds later, she asks the exact question you just answered. You say it again, a little slower, a little louder. You watch her face concentrate, really work, and then quietly, almost imperceptible, she retreats. Eyes a little more distant, conversation a little more close. And then the thought that follows you in the kitchen, into the dishes, into the night: am I not doing enough? What is wrong with me? Am I losing her? Hear me when I say that moment is not about love. It's about neuroscience. I am Rosabel, neurology nurse practitioner. I've sat across from hundreds of families navigating exactly this: the gap, the frustration, the guilt, the fear. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what is actually happening in the brain during those hard conversations. Why hearing loss is one of the most urgent and under-addressed dementia risk factors. How hearing aids do something far more powerful than just turning up the volume, and what you can do practically today to reduce the load on both of your nervous systems. So here's the shift I want you to carry with you. What looks like fading connection is actually the brain working overtime to compensate for missing auditory input. It's not stubbornness, it's not apathy. It's the nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. When the data coming in is incomplete and that extra labor sustained over months and years, it quietly accelerates cognitive change. This is not a love problem, it's a brain resource problem. And that means it can be addressed. If you ever left one of these conversations feeling weird, drained, more than you even expected, there is a real neurological reason for that. When auditory input is degraded, the brain doesn't just passively receive less sound. The auditory cortex and prefrontal areas recruit extra resources to fill in the gaps. Researchers call this effortful listening, and it is not passive. It burns through cognitive reserve, which is essentially the brain's mental bandwidth at an accelerated rate. It also activates the autonomic nervous system, creating a sustained low-grade stress response that compounds over days and weeks. Your frustration is not impatience, not weakness. It's your own nervous system responding to a communication loop that is working too hard, and no amount of willpower changes that. Because the effort itself is a tax on attention, memory, and emotional regulation. If this is starting to release some of that self-blame, stay with me. The next layer speaks directly to what's happening inside your loved one. And if your own nervous system feels depleted from the weight of caregiving, I personally found cranial electrotherapy stimulation, specifically neurovana calm, helpful for quieting that autonomic arousal. Link in the description. no pressure, just a tool that has helped many people I care about, including me. Here's where it gets really important clinically. Chronic untreated hearing loss does not stay in the ears. Over time, the brain begins to reorganize around it. The temporal lobe regions responsible for language processing and memory receive less and less consistent input. Social and predictive brain networks start operating on an incomplete data. The result is increased allostatic load. That is the cumulative wear and tear on the brain from sustained stress and compensation. This is one of the primary mechanisms behind why large longitudinal studies link untreated hearing loss to higher dementia risk, and why the effect is even stronger in people who carry the ApoE epsilon 4 gene variant. Here's what hearing aids actually do. Hearing aids don't just make things louder. They actually restore richer, more accurate auditory input to the brain. They reduce compensatory overwork. They lower cognitive load. They give the nervous system back the kind of sensory data it evolved to expect. That is why multiple studies, including Johns Hopkins research published in 2025, shows hearing aid use is associated with a 32 to 61% lower dementia prevalence in those with moderate to severe loss, and up to 48% slower cognitive decline in higher risk individuals. These are not small numbers. These numbers are life-changing. Almost every family I work tells me the same thing. We knew something was off for a while. We just kept thinking it wasn't bad enough yet. I understand that. Watching my own grandmother change and not having language for what was happening. What I know clinically is this. Prolonged sensory mismatch creates ongoing low-level threat signals in the amygdala. The brain, trying to conserve energy, it begins to shift resources away from higher executive function over time. This contributes to measurable brain volume loss and white matter changes that show up on imaging, when the MRI basically indicates that the brain is shrinking. The encouraging part is this process is modifiable, but you have to address it in time. Addressing hearing loss early isn't about achieving perfection. It's about removing an unnecessary burden to the brain so the brain can allocate its resources towards what matters: memory, connection, emotional regulation, and quality of life. You didn't miss the window, but the sooner you move, the more protective it is. Let me give you a few things you can actually use today, this week. You want to create better sensory conditions. Whenever you're talking to your loved one, face each other. You want to have good lighting, background, noise off, or move to a quieter room. This isn't about being overly formal. It's about reducing the prediction errors the brain is constantly trying to solve when it can't hear clearly. That's why when I am doing cognitive checks for my patients, I always ask for a room that has no noise in the background. I want a quiet place because you want to shift the language, not just your volume. Instead of repeating louder, try something like this. Let me say that differently. Shorten the sentences, one idea at a time. Slow and steady beats, loud and frustrated every time. I want you to schedule that hearing evaluation. I know this can feel like a big step, but modern hearing aids are small, discreet, and nothing like what you're imagining. Getting even a baseline assessment gives you information on options, and it might be one of the most protective things you do for your loved one's brain this year. For you, the caregiver, before you respond in a tense moment, take one conscious breath. Just one. It genuinely resets the vagal tone and gives your prefrontal cortex a moment to stay in charge instead of your stress response. Consider tools that support connection. Apps like InnerHype can help families stay present during medical appointments by capturing and summarizing key information so you're not carrying everything alone. Link is in the description. None of this is about fixing anyone. It is about working with the brain instead of against it. Also, if you're a caregiver watching this tonight, maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you've been second-guessing yourself for months. Maybe you've been wondering if you're patient enough, present enough, doing enough. I want you to hear this from someone who sits with families in this exact place every week, every day. You're not losing the person you love because you didn't try hard enough. You are navigating a biological reality that most people, including most healthcare providers, never fully explain to families. And now you have language for it. Now you have a lens that changes what these moments mean. Your steady presence, even on the hard days, even when words don't land, still matters more than perfect communication ever could. The fact that you're here learning this, wanting to understand, that is the care. That is the love. And something in this video shifted something for you, a piece of guilt that's lighter now, or a new way of seeing what your loved one is going through. Drop it in the comments. Tell me what landed. I read every single one, and your words help me know what to keep making. For more brain and supportive caregiving, my video series is linked below. Each one is designed to give you practical, neuroscience-grounded tools for the long road. If you're ready to explore some gentle support options, two I trust: Inner Hive for staying present and organized during your appointments, and Neurobond.com for nervous system support, both linked in the description. Remember, you are not alone in this. One aware moment at a time. You got this. This is Rosabel Unscripted, signing off.